Bismillahir-Rahmanir-Rahim. Tafsir As-Sadi, Surah Al-Baqarah, Ayah 164. Verily, in the creation of the heavens and the earth, in the alternation of the night and the day, in the sailing of the ships through the ocean for the benefit of humankind, in the rain which Allah sends down from the skies, and the life which He gives thereby to an earth that is dead, in the beasts of all kinds that He scatters throughout the earth, in the changing of the winds and clouds that run their appointed courses between heaven and earth, here are indeed signs for people of understanding. The tafsir of Ayah 164. Here Allah tells us that in these created beings there are great signs, that is evidence of the oneness and divinity of the Creator, and of His great power, mercy, and all other attributes. But they are signs for people of understanding, meaning for those who use their minds for the purpose for which they were created. So, according to the level of rational thinking with which Allah has blessed His slave, that person will be able to benefit from these signs and recognize them by way of his reasoning, thinking, and pondering. In the creation of the heavens, with their great height and breadth, their precision and perfection, and what Allah has placed in them of the sun, moon, and stars, and how they mark time in the ordering of people's affairs, and in the creation of the earth as a place where they could settle and abide, benefiting from everything in it and pondering it. There is an indication of Allah's unique powers of creation and control. This highlights His immense power by which He created it, His wisdom by means of which He perfected it, designed it beautifully and regulated it, and His knowledge and mercy by means of which He placed what He placed on earth of things that are beneficial to humankind, serving their interests and meeting their needs. In all of that, there is most eloquent proof of His perfection and that He alone is deserving for worship because He alone creates and controls and takes care of His slaves' affairs. And then Allah says, in the alternation of the night and the day, meaning which constantly follow one another. When one departs, it is succeeded by the other. This alternation of night and day results in an alternation between heat and cold and moderate temperatures, and between long and short days and days of moderate length. All of that in turn leads to the seasons, the order of which brings great benefit to the sons of Adam and their livestock, and to everything that is on face of the earth of trees and plants. All of that is in accordance with a system and plan in such a way that dazzles the most brilliant of minds. This is indicative of Allah's great might, knowledge, wisdom, vast mercy, all encompassing kindness, and full control, which is His alone. His might is the might of sovereignty and power, which dictates that He alone should be venerated and worshipped, and He is the only one who should be loved, and only one whom we should fear, and in whom we should put our hope and strive to attain His love and pleasure. Allah says next, is the sailing of the ships through the ocean for the benefit of humankind, meaning this refers to ships, boats, and other vessels that Allah inspired His slaves to make and created for them the mental and physical means of making them. Then He subjugated His vast ocean for them and the winds by means of which they move, carrying passengers, wealth, and goods that are essential conveniences for people, in such a way that serves their interests. Who is it that inspired them to make them, enabled them to do so, and created for them the means of making them? Who is it that subjected the sea for them, so that they travel in it by His leave and His subjugation of the winds? Who is it that created fire and metal for vehicles and vessels on land and sea, which helps to carry them and what they contain of wealth? Did these things happen randomly, or are they all made by this weak and vulnerable creature who emerged from his mother's womb with no knowledge or ability? Then Allah created that ability in him and taught him what He wanted to teach him. Or was all of that subjugated to them by one Lord, most wise and all knowing, for whom nothing is beyond Him and nothing is too difficult for Him? Indeed, all things are subject to His Lordship, greatness, and might. The best that can be said about this weak human being is that Allah has made him part of the means by which these great things came into existence. This indicates that Allah is merciful and cares for His creation. Allah, all of this dictates that all love, fear, hope, and obedience, humility, and veneration should be for Allah alone. Then Allah says here, in the rain which Allah sends down from the skies, meaning, and it comes down from the clouds. And then Allah says, and the life which He gives thereby to an earth that is dead, meaning, it brings forth all kinds of provisions and all types of plants, without which humans and animals cannot live. Is this not indicative of the might of the One who sent it down and brought forth by means of it what He brought forth? Is it not indicative of His mercy and kindness to His slaves and His taking care of their interests? Is it not indicative of the greatness of their need for Him in all aspects? Does that not dictate that He alone should be their God, whom they worship? Is that not evidence for the resurrection of the dead and the requital for their deeds? Allah says next, in the beasts of all kinds that He scatters throughout the earth, meaning that He spreads throughout all regions of the earth or of different kinds of animals. This is indicative of His might, greatness, oneness, and sovereignty. He subjugated them for humankind so that they benefit from them in all ways. They eat the flesh of some of them and drink their milk. They write some of them and use others for various tasks and to guard them. They learn lessons from some of them. As He was scattered beasts of all kinds throughout the earth, He also takes care of their provision. There is no living creature on earth, but its provision is due from Allah. He knows where it lives and where it dies. Then Allah says here, in the changing of the winds and clouds, meaning hot and cold, north and south, east and west, and everything in between. Sometimes the wind generates clouds, sometimes it joins the clouds together into a heap, sometimes it fecundates the clouds, sometimes it causes rain, sometimes it breaks up the cloud, removing their harm, sometimes it brings mercy, and sometimes it brings punishment. Who is it that controls the winds in this way and creates in them benefits for people, which they cannot do without? Who is it that generates them so that they become a means of survival for all kinds of animals and all living things, such as trees, grains, and plants? It can be none other than Almighty, the Most Wise, the Most Merciful, who is kind of His slaves and is deserving of all humility, submission, love, devotion, and worship. In the subjugation of the clouds between heaven and earth, which despite their lightness and fragility carry a great deal of water, which Allah drives wherever He wills, and it brings life to the land and the people, irrigating the hills and valleys, is an indication of His great power, kindness, and mercy. He sends the rain down to humankind at the time of need, but if they will be harmed by His abundance, He withholds it from them. He sends it down as a mercy and kindness, and directs it in accordance with His care and compassion. Is it not reprehensible on the part of His slaves that they should enjoy His provision and live by His kindness, yet they use it for sinful purposes that incurs His wrath? Is this not indicative of His forbearance, patience, and tolerance, and of the extent of His kindness? Praise be to Him at all times and in all circumstances. The point is that the more a man of understanding thinks of Allah's creation and thoroughly examines the wonders thereof, the more he thinks of the amazing design and what He has created in it of things that are indicative of His kindness and wisdom. He will realize that it was created for the truth, and by the truth. It is an open book of signs and evidence that point to what Allah has told us about Himself and His oneness, and what the messengers have told us about the last day, and that all the people are subjugated to His control and have no control over themselves and no power to resist. Thus, you should realize that all of creation, in heaven and on earth, are in desperate need for Him. He is the one who is independent of means in and of Himself and has no need of any of His creation. There is no God but Allah, and there is no Lord besides Him. Surah Al-Baqarah, Ayah 165, 166, and 167. Yet there are some people who make for worship others besides Allah as equals with Allah. They love them as they should love Allah, but those who believe have greater love for Allah. When the transgressors see the punishment, they will realize that all power belongs to Allah and that Allah is severe in punishment. When those who were followed disavow those who followed them, and they see the punishment and all ties between them are severed, and those who followed say, if only we had one more chance, we would disavow them, as they have disavowed us. Thus Allah will show them their deeds as a cause of bitter regret. They will never emerge from the fire. The tafsir of Ayah 165 to 167. How beautiful is this verse! After having explained in the previous verses His oneness and the definitive evidence for it, and the clear proof that leads to certain knowledge and removes all doubts, Allah tells us here that there are some people who, despite this clear explanation, take some created beings as equals with Allah, meaning they regard them as His peers and see them as being equal to Allah with regard to worship, love, veneration, and obedience. The one who is like that, even after proof has been established and Allah's oneness has been clearly explained, must be stubbornly opposed to Allah, or he must have turned away from pondering His signs and His creation. He does not have the slightest excuse for that. Rather, he is deserving of the punishment. These people who take others as equal to Allah do not say that they are equal to Him in terms of creating, granting provision, and controlling. Rather, they think that they are equal to Him in terms of worship. So they worship them in order that they might bring them closer to Him. The word take indicates that Allah has no equal. Rather, the polytheists regard some created beings as equal to Him. But this is no more than a notion in their minds and is devoid of any meaning, as Allah says elsewhere in the Quran, and yet they ascribe partners to Allah. Say, name them, or do you presume to tell Allah of something that He does not know on earth, or is it just a show of words? Surah Ar-Ra'd, Ayah 33. And they are no more than names you have named, you and your forefathers, for which Allah has sent down any authority. They follow nothing but conjecture. Surah An-Najm, Ayah 23. A created being cannot be equal to Allah, because He is the creator and everything else is created. He is the Lord and provider, and everything else is provided for. Allah is the one who is independent of means, and you are dependent. He is perfect in all ways, and you are lacking in all ways. Allah is the one who brings benefits and causes harm, and created beings have no power to bring benefit or cause harm, for they have no power at all. Thus it is known for certain that those who take anything other than Allah as gods, whom they regard as equal to Him, whether that is an angel, a prophet, a righteous man, an idol, or anything else, is misguided, and that Allah is the only one who is deserving of all love and complete humility. Hence, Allah praises the believers by saying here, but those who believe have greater love for Allah, meaning they are sincere to Him, alone in their love, whereas these people set up others whom they regard as equal to Him and worship them alongside Him. And believers love the only one who is deserving of love in an absolute sense, love of whom is the essence of a person's well being, happiness, and salvation. Whereas the polytheists love those who are not deserving of any love at all, and the love is the essence of a person's misery, corruption, and loss. Hence, Allah warned them when He says here, when the transgressors, meaning those who transgressed by taking others for worship besides Allah, as equals with Him, submitting to something other than the Lord of Allah, and to wrong people by preventing them from following the path of Allah and striving to cause them harm. Allah says next, see the punishment, meaning on the day of resurrection, when they will see it with their own eyes. And then Allah says, they will realize that all power belongs to Allah and that Allah is severe in punishment, meaning then they will realize with certainty that all power belongs to Allah alone and that their false gods have no power at all. Thus it will become clear to them how weak and incapable they, the false gods, are, and that they are not as they mistakenly thought they were in this world, when they thought that they had some power and that they could bring them closer to Allah. They will see there that their expectations were wrong, Their efforts were wasted, and they are deserving of a severe punishment that their false gods cannot ward off from them or offer them the slightest help. Rather, harm will reach them because of those false gods, whereas they thought that they would benefit them. Those who were followed will disavow the followers, and any ties that existed between them in this world will be severed, because these ties were the sake of something other than Allah and were not in accordance with the command of Allah. Rather, they were based on utter falsehood. Thus, their efforts will be wasted and they will be doomed, and they will realize that they, those who followed, were liars. Their deeds that they hoped would benefit them will turn into a source of regret and sorrow for them, and they will abide forever in the fire and will never be brought out of it. Can there be any greater loss than this? Meaning, because they followed falsehood and acted accordingly, pinning their hopes on that in which there was no hope, and forming an attachment to that which was not deserving of it. Hence, their deeds will be rendered invalid because of the invalidity of the foundation of those deeds. And at that point, sorrow will overtake them for their dashed hopes of reward and the ultimate harm that befalls them. This is unlike those who put their hopes in Allah, the Sovereign, the Truth, and sincerely strive for His sake, hoping for His mercy. Such a one has acted appropriately, so his deeds are valid because they are based on truth. Thus, he will attain the positive result of his efforts, and he will find his reward with his Lord in abundance of, as Allah Azza wa Jal says elsewhere in the Quran, those who disbelieve and bar others from the path of Allah, He will cause their deeds to come on to naught. Those who believe and do righteous deeds and believe in that which was sent down to Muhammad, for it is the truth from their Lord. He will absolve them of their bad deeds and rectify their condition. That is because those who disbelieve follow falsehood, and those who believe follow the truth from their Lord. Thus does Allah set forth for humankind their comparisons. In Surah Muhammad, Ayah 1 to 3. Then the followers will wish that they could be returned to this world so that they might disavow what they followed, give up associating others with Allah, and strive hard for the sake of Allah alone. But alas, it will be too late. It will no longer be the time for respite or reprieve. Moreover, they will be lying, because if they did return to this world, they would go back to their previous ways. These are no more than empty words and wishful thinking on their part, out of resentment towards those whom they followed, when the later disavow them, even though the blame is theirs. The leader of those who were followed in evil is Iblis. Nevertheless, he will say to his followers, when judgment is passed, as Allah says in the Quran, verily Allah give you a true promise. I also gave you promises, but I betrayed you. I had no power over you except that I called you and you responded to me. So do not blame me, blame yourself. Surah Ibrahim, Ayah 22.